Welcome to another bonus edition of Upon Further Review.
Upon further review.
And in this edition, we'll be talking about the Washington Redskins to the Dallas Cowboys. And you can catch this Week 8 matchup on October 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN Monday Night Football. So the Redskins enter this game with a record of 2-5, and the Cowboys are 6-1, as they are the only team thus far to have 6 victories on the season. Washington started off by losing in Houston in Week 1. They then hosted Jacksonville and they picked up a victory. They then went to Philadelphia and lost. They then hosted the Giants and lost. And then they hosted the Seahawks and lost. They then went to Arizona and lost. But then last week they picked up their second victory of the season as they hosted the Tennessee Titans, and they won by just 2 points. The Dallas Cowboys started off the season with a loss at home to the San Francisco 49ers as they lost by just 11 points in that game. But ever since then, they have been undefeated. They have won 6 straight in a row. They went to Tennessee and they beat the Titans. They went to St. Louis and they beat the Rams. They then hosted the Saints and beat them. Then they hosted the Texans in the Battle of Texas and they beat them by a field goal in overtime. They then went to Seattle and beat the Seahawks in Seattle by a touchdown. And then they hosted the Giants last week and they beat them by 10 points. And now they host Washington in Big D in Dallas, Monday Night Football. And it's going to be a spanking for sure. The Cowboys are going to win 7 games by the time this thing is done. And let's look inside the numbers. And the Redskins are actually an impressive 4th in the NFL when it comes to passing proficiency as yards through the air. But they, it's funny, right? They're number 4 in passing offense per game. Yet they're having quarterback controversy and issues. Kirk Cousins has been benched, and it's either going to be RG3 or Colt McCoy who ends up starting this game, depending on RG3's health. Or whatever, I don't even know. At that point, you're like, what's going on there? It's so confusing with Washington. But anyway, the Cowboys are 14th in the NFL when it comes to pass yards per game. And when we look at pass defense, the Redskins are an impressive 7th in passing defense in yards allowed through the air, and the Cowboys are 12th. So the advantage when it comes to the passing game, surprisingly, statistically, is in favor of Washington, which is kind of like insane, but that's the numbers. And now let's look at the running proficiency. And when it comes to the ground game, the Redskins are 22nd in the NFL, and the Cowboys are number 1. DeMarco Murray is having one of the greatest seasons for a running back in NFL history. Only Terrell Davis and Jamal Lewis had more yards through the first 7 games than DeMarco Murray is having right here in 2014. He's having a better start to the season than Barry Sanders or Walter Payton ever did, as he passed them on that list in the top 5 to be number 3. So he's just carrying the load and having an excellent season. We look at the running defenses of these two teams. Washington is 12th in the NFL, and the Cowboys are 16th in run defense. So the clear advantage in the running game goes to the Cowboys without a doubt. Now let's look at the points for and against. In the Washington, they are 23rd in the NFL in points scored per game. The Cowboys are 5th. When it comes to points allowed, Washington is 24th, Dallas is 9th. So when it comes to the scoreboard, the clear advantage is in favor of the Cowboys. So statistically speaking, the Cowboys are a better team on paper, although the Redskins are kind of have this amalgamation of having like these crazy passing stats where they're in the top 5 in passing yards per game, which is kind of laughable. It's funny, too, because last year when the Redskins were 3-13, and they actually won more games in the preseason than they did in the regular season, all throughout the year, the Redskins were in the top 5, top 10 in running the ball. Alfred Morris. But this year, their running game has fallen off hard, and you almost wonder, is it that teams are expecting them to run, and then they just are getting caught off by the passing game, or what? And it doesn't even matter. Like Kirk Cousins, yeah, he put up some big numbers, that got them to that point of being in the top 5. But you can throw for all those offensive passing yards. You can throw for 300, 400 yards, whatever. But if you throw like 3-4 interceptions, who cares? I mean, yards don't mean nothing if you don't get in the end zone, and that's what it is for Washington. Is they might get a lot of yards in the air, but they don't put them up on the scoreboard. It doesn't translate into touchdowns. It translates into field goals and even missed field goals. And then same thing on defense. Yeah, Washington's defense is pretty good in terms of yards allowed, but they allow a lot of points. So it's like they're letting up short fields, and that's kind of the thing. It's like Washington will get to the point where, they get all these offensive pass yards, but then they get stopped on the run. They can't get in the end zone. They give teams short fields, and then teams don't put up a lot of numbers against them, but they put up a lot of points. So when it comes to Washington, they actually do have a lot of potential, but in this game right here, Dallas is going to be too much for them. And the key to Dallas's success is that running game. As long as they just keep pounding the ball, they're going to run all over the Redskins. DeMarco Murray should have a huge game. And Tony Romo has been solid. He ain't putting up huge numbers, but he doesn't have to. And that's like the key to winning. I mean, you've seen throughout, history, if a quarterback who is very proficient through the air, puts up lots of big numbers, but he can't get a ring, well, what do? You put him with a good running back or a great running back, and then that's how you get a championship, when you have a good quarterback with a good running back and then a good defense. Their defense is a little bit suspect, to be honest, but they don't have to be that good when you got DeMarco Murray eating the clock, running the ball, getting them yards, and getting it in the end zone. And Tony Romo, on the season, he has 1,789 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So it's like, yeah, he got 6 interceptions, but he got 14 touchdowns. So he's throwing a lot more touchdowns than he's throwing picks. And yeah, he still, he's not perfect, but they're making up for his mistakes. As few, mistakes as he's making. He's improving for sure. And Romo always has been a guy that, he gets a lot of unfair criticism, and a lot of it is because he's always had to carry the whole load on his shoulders. They've always asked him to do, too much, and one guy cannot win the game. But when you give Romo DeMarco Murray, and he had DeMarco Murray, but when you actually start featuring him and turn the offense into a running offense, and we see that the Cowboys have run the ball 235 times and they've passed it 214 times, so they're running the ball more than they're passing the ball, and that gives them a balanced attack that keeps their offense on the field, and it makes it to where Romo doesn't have to carry the load all by himself, and that makes it to where they can put a full team effort on offense, and that's why they have won 6 in a row. And their defense, although they're not the best defense, they're good. They're not bad. So they're a good defense. They're actually pretty similar to last year, but they're more fresh because they're not out on the field the whole game, because DeMarco's eating up that clock, keeping them off the field. So when they come on the field, they're fresh and they make the plays that they have to make. They might bend a little, but they don't break, and they're doing what they got to do, and they're getting the W's, and they're going to get another win on Monday night. That's how I see it. I would be shocked to see the Redskins win this game. I mean, Dallas all the way. I think Dallas could win this one by 20 points. Wouldn't be surprised. It is a division game, NFC East, so maybe the Redskins make it interesting, but that's very unlikely. Especially they don't even know who their quarterback's going to be. And the number one thing when in this league is having consistency behind center. You got to have a consistent quarterback if you want to win in this league. Yes, sure, there's been a few times where teams have won with backup quarterbacks. It happens once in a while if you have an insane great defense and a great running game. But we see here, they got Romo. He can be consistent when he's not asked to do everything. If you just ask him to just go out there and do his part, he can do his part. And then you got DeMarco Murray. He can carry the load. And he's, doing his thing. He's got already 913 yards on the season. In this game here, he's going to go over the century mark. He'll have over 1,000 yards through the first 8 games. And that's going to happen on Monday Night Football. Let me know what you think. Very interested to read your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit the like button. How else would we know you enjoyed the show if you don't hit the like button? And if you want more of this content, go ahead and subscribe as we bring you upon further reviews and recaps of each and every single game throughout the regular season and the playoffs, including the Super Bowl. We're also covering the MLB playoffs. It's down to just 2 teams in the World Series. We've been covering it the whole way through the world, the wild card, the ALDS, the NLDS, the ALCS, the NLCS. Now it's down to the World Series, so keep an eye out for that. We also cover some college football. Been a little busy with the baseball playoffs. We will get back to covering more college football once the baseball playoffs concludes, which should happen in the next 7 days, if not sooner. And we also bring you our weekly show, The Wedge, where we do our quick picks, our fantasy fortune, fantasy football picks, our weekly rewind of the week that was, and our upon further review for the Thursday night game. We try to get it up there before, we try to get up there like Wednesday. Sometimes we'll get it up a little bit on Tuesday, and at the very latest on Thursday. Definitely, before the Thursday night game. We get up there kind of late this week, and I apologize for that. But we will get it up there sooner next week for sure. So keep an eye out for that. And thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and a great weekend, and enjoy all of the sports.